Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I'm going to try to do something a little bit different today, talking about recovery and addiction. I know some of you are like, well, how is that different? You talk about recovery and addiction every day. I know I do talk about it every day, but a couple months ago, I said, I think it was in October, going into October, I said I wanted to do more dedicated videos talking specifically about recovery and addiction. And in my video, I believe it was yesterday, I asked for some questions that you guys might have that you would like me to address, or just situations that you would like me to address or whatnot. And I really appreciate it. Continue to put those in the comment sections below and I will pick certain things out. I will say this, it gets really, really difficult when people say very specific things. Like if somebody will say, you know, and I want to make this very clear as well. I'm just sharing my experience, strength, and hope. I am by no means an expert on, you know, this whole situation. Like, for example, I will just put this out there. I was asked by somebody to talk about medically managed recovery and things like that, which I think is a great topic to talk about. I think it's something, especially in 2023, with so many maintenance drugs that we have out there, I think it's a discussion that we really need to be having. Part of the problem is I've never been on maintenance drugs. I have a lot of friends of mine that have, like Suboxone and things like that. But I've never been on that. So I can't share to my experience of what that's like. I could share friends of mine experience of what I've heard from them, or, you know, things like that, or, you know, I think what people think or what people see, but it wouldn't be like a first-hand account. And so I feel a little bit like, not negligent in having that conversation, but it would be more of an opinion-based conversation. I will say that my opinion about that is, and it's changed over the years, and I think it's important to understand that when I got sober, there weren't a lot of recovery medically based programs around. At that time, it was really just like methadone, and then after that came Antabuse that came around, and then, you know, just I would say in the last, you know, 15 to 20 years, Suboxone, buprenorphine, which is the term for Suboxone, came around. When Suboxone first came around, Suboxone is a maintenance drug for opioid users. And when it first came around, and I can remember because I was working in a treatment program and I went through seminars and education on Suboxone and things like that, and was really, to be honest with you, one of the very first people that was trained about it. And when it first came around, there were only several doctors that were trained to, you know, use and prescribe Suboxone. And it was really for people that had gone through multiple treatments and could not stay sober. And it was kind of like a last ditch effort of really trying to save somebody's life. And so they would, you know, put them on it, and what you have to do is you have to like drop somebody's levels down of like opioid use, and then they bring them back up on, and then they, you know, and then they maintain them on that. Now, I do know in other countries, because I've read the articles, they're using it for things like antidepressants and things like that. I can't speak to that either because I don't know much about that. You know, when it first started coming around, you know, and then there was a lot of this whole like management around it, that if you were on Suboxone and you were being prescribed by a doctor, you were only given, I would say, like 3 to 4 pills at a time, maybe 10, and then you had to have random drug screens. You had to be part of some kind of group program, like an outpatient group. You had to be going to 12-step meetings, like 90 meetings in 90 days. Today, I don't believe that is so much the case, and over a period of time, there's a lot of addicts out there that have also learned how to manipulate Suboxone, which is really, really scary, you know, because what they'll do is, you know, maybe, let's say, Thursday through Sunday or whatever, you know, they're using heroin and things like that, and Monday through Friday so that they can maintain they're using Suboxone, and it's very scary when you're doing those things. I also know that there is, by some people, I don't really hear this a lot anymore, honestly, and I'm pretty active in a 12-step program. I mean, most of my friends are in 12-step programs, and we never have this conversation. We never talk about it. I have friends of mine that sponsor people that are on Suboxone. But, you know, for a while, there was this attitude that if you were on Suboxone, then you weren't really sober. I don't really hear that attitude today in a 12-step program. I just don't. I think that over time, you know, when we talk about the times they are changing and 12-step programs kind of stepping up and coming with the times, I think the majority of people that at least that I know, and I know a lot of people in recovery, their attitude about it and my attitude about it is, let's just help people stay alive, right? And if staying alive means that you have to be on a maintenance drug, more power to you, you know? And I hope that you get what a 12-step program is about along the way. So, you know, and I have friends of mine that are on maintenance drugs and have been sober for, you know, a period of time. So I can't, like, I guess I said I couldn't speak to it, and now I'm just kind of sharing all of that. But yeah, but from like a personal experience, I can't really share, you know, much more than that. One person did say, though, and this is a topic that I wanted to talk about. Oh, this is what I was going to say about that, though. So when people ask me about certain things like that, or people ask me about specific situations, like they'll say, like my sister, and I'm just making this up. This is nobody's based on anybody's comment, so don't take this personally. I'm just completely making this up. But if somebody will say, like, my sister, yada, 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 what do you think I should do? First of all, it would be negligent for me to get in a video and tell somebody what they should do in a situation like that. I will never do that, okay? Number two, it's hard because I'm only, you know, it's like standing in a tunnel with a flashlight. I'm only seeing what you're showing me. So I'm only seeing one side of the story, if that makes sense. So you don't really know what suggestions to give. To any family member or friend of somebody that has an addiction issue, I would tell you to get involved in a 12-step program. It's a sister program like Al-Anon or Nar-Anon. I would also tell you to seek therapy or counseling or life coaching for yourself to help you with that and learn how to set appropriate boundaries and limits so that you can continue to help that person and not enable them. I think it is just the natural of order of things that friends and family members become enablers. I think without even wanting to do so or, you know, desiring to do so. I know my family and friends did as well, and that was never their intention. So I think to learn how to not do those things is also really a great way to I don't know, help your family members and your friends. This video is kind of like all over the place. What I really wanted to talk about today on here, I'm not talking about at all, which was I wanted to talk about, somebody asked me something about that they like smoke. I think maybe I'm getting two comments combined, but I don't think so. They said, you know, they stopped smoking pot for a while. And then they start again, and then they stop smoking pot for a while. But, like, their fear is basically that they're going to be bored if they quit, like, smoking pot forever, right? I know nobody says pot anymore. I say pot because I'm, you know, as old as the hills. But anyway, weed, whatever. Mary Jane, sticky, icky. That's what people used to call it back in the day. But anyway, you know, I think it's interesting, this whole idea of if I quit using, I will be bored. That was, to be honest with you, one of my number one fears. And it wasn't just that. It was like, well, how will I get through a wedding? How will I get married and not have a champagne toast? Who cares? And that was like one of my concerns, right? If my mom dies, if my dad dies, right? Which didn't even happen until years later. My dad, he's still alive, right? That like if my mom dies or if my dad dies, I'm using. Like I said that. Like I'm using. I'm not going to stay sober. Like there's no way I can make it through that. I had all of these things, all these, you know, moments that if this happened or if that happened, I was going to start using again. And the reality was, or is, that I've had many, if not most of those things happen, and I'm still here. I'm still here. And I haven't picked up, and I haven't found the need to pick up, you know? Okay, my battery died. This is my third video in a row that I'm filming. All right, but yeah, like those were my concerns, that if these were the things that I was going to use over, that I was going to use if this happened, or I was going to use if that happened, and blah, 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 whatever, right? And the reality is, like I said, that, you know, in my 28 years of sobriety, I have never found the need to use over any of those things that's happened in my life. Thankfully, you know, I'm so thankful for that. And when I look back on my use, you know, I think about this sometimes, like when I make a comment like, well, you know, how am I going to not have a champagne toast at my wedding? Which is interesting because at my wedding, I was so hardcore about I'm not paying for alcohol for anybody because we paid for all the food, but we didn't have an open bar. I was adamant that I wasn't going to pay for alcohol and that I didn't want to have a champagne toast. We had a toast, but I didn't want it to be like champagne between us, obviously, because I wasn't going to drink, you know. But those were like things that were like adamant to me. And I also wanted there to be recovery pieces in our wedding, which there were, you know. My cousin read the 3rd-step prayer in honor of my mother, the 3rd-step prayer from, 12-step program, in honor of my mother's absence. And so there were all these recovery pieces that were in there. But flashback all these years before, my concern was, how am I going to get through my own wedding without a champagne toast? And what's crazy to me about that, right, is when I look back on my using, which I've probably only shared with you guys, in all honesty, like maybe 20% of really truly how bad my using was. Tanya and I were just talking about this after she did her, lead and told her story the other day. I don't know if I shared this on here. I shared it in my vlog, but I went with Tanya when she just told her story, which is, we call it a lead in recovery. And we were talking about it on the way home because she didn't talk about a lot about her drinking story or whatever, and we were talking about how we're not big on that. I'm not big on getting in video and talking about how bad it really was. I have done that at times. I've told specific stories in my vlog of things that have happened. But as far as how much I've shared on here exactly what it looked like at the end, how much I was using and things like that. But when I tell you guys, really, truly how horrendous it was at the end for being 22 and a half years old, and that had been going on for 3 or 4 years, that I had been using on that level on a daily basis, I look back at that and it's really scary, it's really, truly scary. And I haven't even shared some of those specifics and those stories over here because I don't think that they're necessary. And I'm really more focused on the hope and all of that. But then to come out of that and look at that and say, well, can I not have a champagne toast at my own wedding? It's okay, it's very this. That's where the addict is working overtime in your head. But like I said, I was very concerned with being bored in recovery. We say we're not a glum lot, and I had heard that from day one. We're not a glum lot. I went to meetings and I would see all these people laughing, and kind of my first attitude was why are all these people laughing? What do they have to laugh about? Their lives are boring. They're not using drugs or drinking anymore. They can't have any fun. And what I found very quickly in my first, I would say, 3 months, but then, other things came with it in my first 6 months to, a year, was this peace and serenity that came over me. I can remember, my days when I first got sober were being at this clubhouse, this 12-step clubhouse all day long, coming home, eating a cheeseburger dinner at somebody, going to Denny's or Perkins, eating a cheeseburger dinner, coming home, taking a shower, putting on my pajamas, making a pot of coffee, watching a movie, and then reading some 12-step based text or a book, and just being very cozy. It was wintertime. I'd make a fire in my apartment, and then going to bed and waking up the next day with no hangover, no regret, no shame, no remorse. And that started to feel really good. So I wasn't so concerned with being bored because those feelings were amazing. But like I said, I don't know, there are some sayings that we have in recovery that, there was no giggle left in the bottle. Towards the end, there was no giggle left in the bottle for me. There's another saying that we have, you have to have enough pain. I went through a lot of pain. I went through a lot of hardship. I was done. I didn't know when I walked into treatment that I was done, but I was done. It was when I could finally have some clear, this is why I believe in long-term treatment. I don't even think that 30 days is long enough. That's what I had. But when I came kind of out of that fog, I was like, damn, your life is a mess. And you didn't even realize it. I say this a lot. The party was over and I didn't even realize it, So, when I look at my life and all of the fun that I've had, I have had the most magically amazing life. I have a life beyond my wildest dreams, like my old sponsor used to say. My friend Tanya and I and our friends, we have laughed so hard that we thought that we were going to pee our pants and never stop laughing, And all of the trips that I've taken and all the times that I've had with my husband and my past 2 exes since I've been sober, and, great friends that I've made, great opportunities I've had an unbelievable life that would never have been possible if I were sober, Would I trade it to get high? Absolutely never. Absolutely never. Would I trade it for a Bartles and Jane wine cooler or a Jack and Coke, which was my drink back in the day? Every time I go into a bar, I'd order a Jack and Coke with or a double Jack and Coke with a shot of Jack on the side. Would I trade it for that? No, never. It's not worth it. Not for a line of Coke, not for a pill, nothing. There's nothing that I would trade my life for today. I have a life, like my sponsor used to say, beyond my wildest dreams. Does it get boring sometimes? Sure, it does. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with boring today. I don't need every day to be full excitement, you know? I don't need every day to be crazy, 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 crazy. I don't miss that at all, you know? And I have to say this, and this doesn't just go with the drugs and the drinking. This goes with the whole environment, the culture around it. When you get out of the chaos for a while and you realize that the chaos is what was driving the excitement and the fun, and you get out of it for a while, what you realize is you don't miss the chaos anymore. You don't need the chaos anymore. You don't want the chaos anymore. I don't want the chaos anymore. I want peace and serenity. And I'm very, very happy today, and I feel very, very blessed. So anyway, let me know what you think about all of that in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.